Hey guys, I'm back here with my 2002 Nissan Maxima. Today what's going on is when I get the key and turn it over, okay, so when I turn it, that's all it does. And if I Here, let me turn the radio off. And if I do that, you can hear a very loud screeching sound. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave the key like this and show you what's going on under the hood. Alright, so this is under the hood, and if I point the camera in here, you might be able to hear that really loud sound. So what's making that really loud sound is right there, and that right there is your starter motor. And I think how it broke actually was because of this hose. I made a video on how to replace the radiator, and I replaced the hose down there, but I did not replace this hose up top. This hose started leaking, and as you can see down there, it just created a puddle of coolant. However, as it leaks down, it goes through the starter motor right there. So what I believe happened is some coolant got in there and killed it. So I'll be showing you guys how to replace the starter motor there and the starter solenoid, and how to replace this hose up top. Alright, so this is what you're going to need. You might need a jack to get under there if you're replacing the starter. If you're replacing the hose, obviously you will need a hose, so I'll have a link in the description for this. I suggest you get some rubber gloves, jack stands if you're jacking up the car, a bucket if you're going to be replacing this hose so you can drain out some of the fluid in here and replace it without making a mess. Wrench and ratchet set, also some pliers if you're replacing the hose, and you will also need your starter. I don't have one here yet, but I'll have one here tomorrow. So I'll be taking this apart, and then I'll get the part tomorrow and replace it. So first off, make sure the car is not on, and also disconnect the negative battery terminal. Just set that aside, and then you'll need a Phillips screwdriver to undo the screws here. And with these screws, once you have this out, you should pry under this and it should come out like that. Then you can just remove this out, set that aside, and what we're trying to get to is this here. This is the starter engine and this is the hose we're replacing, so it shouldn't be that difficult. Looks like the starter engine has 2 or 3 bolts, one here and a couple on the bottom, so yeah, it shouldn't be that difficult. First off, we're going to want to replace this hose here. So I'm going to go ahead and drain out the radiator. If you don't know how to do that, there's typically a screw down there, and you just unscrew it and drain out the radiator there and use the bucket to catch the liquid. Well, if you just need this hose replaced, you don't have to drain out the whole radiator out. Just drain out a little bit so the fluid gets out of this little area, and then basically just take off the clamps, put the new hose on, and you're done. Easy enough. What I'm more interested in though is doing this, so I'm going to go ahead and take this hose off and start working on that. Alright, so I noticed that on this hose I may not have even needed a new hose. There was just this stuff built up all over this. So I could have probably just cleaned it up and replaced it back with the same exact hose. But I have no idea what this stuff is. So if anyone knows what this buildup is, leave a comment down below. Alright, so I've disconnected the positive terminal as well, just to make sure I don't accidentally touch it and short stuff out. The first thing you need to do is remove this little connector here. And it looks like there's a little tab back here, so just press it down and this should slide out. So disconnect that. That goes to the solenoid. This is your ignition switch. So basically all the solenoid does is once it gets a signal from the ignition, it pushes this out, or it sends a signal over to this to push it out. It engages the engine and turns it over. So yeah, disconnect that. Alright, so before you take this bolt out, take this one that's connected to the battery off, and this is a 12mm socket. And here you will end up with this 12mm nut, and then this should be loose now. So then we need to get to this, and this is a 9/16 bolt, and there's one up here and one on the bottom. Also, these bolts are the kinds of bolts that you might want to WD-40 just a little bit before you take them out, just so it's a little bit easier and you don't break anything or strip the head of the bolt. Alright, so I ordered this on Amazon, and this is what they sent me. As you can see here, this should have two little grooves right here. So this is what it should look like. See these two grooves? There's two nuts right there, and those indent right there. So when you get your starter, make sure that it has those two indentations there, otherwise it's not going to fit. So I'll have to send this one back to Amazon, but I'll have a good link to this one when I find it on Amazon. I'll just make sure to look for the indentations. But anyways, let's go ahead and fit this in. So basically you just grab it and you just fit it in here, and then bolt it down with the two bolts. So just tighten the one at the top so it'll hold it in, and then tighten this one just with your hand. And then once you've got it tightened all the way, you can use your 9/16 socket or wrench and tighten it all the way. And then remember to get the one up top as well. Alright, so that's it for that. Now we need to connect the harness back up. So there should be this one up here. Take this nut off and then slip this harness in there. So you might have a washer and a nut there, so take that off, slip this harness back on, and then put that nut back on to secure it in place. Alright, so once you have the harness connected, make sure to cover it with this little rubber pad. Alright, next, just put this hose back on and fill up your radiator, or plug the radiator first and then fill it up if you emptied it out like I did. Alright, so once you've done that and filled up your radiator, go ahead and put this part in. And just connect it back there. And then screw it up in here. Alright, now the last thing to do is just reconnect your battery terminals. And I'm going to lower the car here because I lifted it, but as you could tell, you didn't really have to lift the car at all to get this job done. Alright, so there we go, everything's back in place. Go ahead and shut it and go test it out. And as you can tell, now it's able to start without a problem. So that's my tutorial on how to replace a starter on a 2002 Nissan Maxima with a standard transmission. As always, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.